So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, your 2-11-1 Detroit Lions are heading out on the road to Atlanta, Georgia this weekend to play the 6-8 Falcons. The Detroit Lions are coming off an incredibly dominant victory after playing their best football of the season and defeating the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 30-12. And the Atlanta Falcons are coming off a really tough loss to a really good San Francisco 49ers team, as last week they ended up dropping their game to the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 31-13. Now, although the Atlanta Falcons are not the offensive or defensive juggernaut that the Arizona Cardinals were a week ago, they are kind of a lesser team both statistically and from the winning category. You look at their record 6-8, you look at a lot of their statistical standings, you look at where they stand in a lot of statistical categories, and you're going to say that this is an average to below average team, a team that is good enough to win you a solid amount of football games, but not a team good enough to get you to the playoff, and a team that's going to finish, 500 to 3 games below 500. Anywhere in that range is kind of where you'd expect the Atlanta Falcons to fall this season. Now, looking at their offensive rankings on the season, the Atlanta Falcons offense isn't horrible. It's not like one of the worst offenses in the NFL by any means, but it's not one of the better offenses either. The Atlanta Falcons offensively ranked 24th as far as offensive yardage on the year, totaling 4,388 yards so far in their 14 games. They ranked 23rd in turnovers lost, losing 21 turnovers on the season. That is about 1.5 turnovers every single game. So that could be something for the Detroit Lions to take advantage of, is an Arizona team that does turn the ball over quite often. The Arizona Cardinals also ranked 26th in points per game, averaging 18.4 points per game on the season. And they also rank 26th in points per drive, averaging about 1.6 points every single time their offense touches the field. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, as I said, are not a bad offense. They're not a bad football team, and they do still have some really solid pieces to build around on that offense. Matt Ryan is still a very serviceable quarterback in the NFL, right? Kyle Pitts is still a really good tight end, just got voted into the Pro Bowl in just his rookie season. Calvin Ridley, although he's not playing for the remainder of the year, is still a really, really good wide receiver, a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL when he's healthy and playing. But, with the loss of Julio in the offseason, with the loss of Calvin Ridley midway through the season, even with Kyle Pitts having a standout rookie performance and having a standout rookie campaign, this offense just simply can't compete with some of the better offenses in the NFL. And with their defensive performances this season, they haven't been able to string together a lot of victories back to back to build up a kind of, to build up some cushion and to build up a winning record in 2021. Defensively, the Arizona Cardinals are actually very similar to their offensive persona. They are not one of the worst defenses in the NFL, at least in a lot of categories, but they're far from the better half. The Arizona Cardinals right now on the season rank 26th in defensive yards allowed. They've allowed 5,136 yards on the season, again ranking 26th in the NFL. They rank 24th in turnovers forced. They have 16 forced turnovers on the season, which is one more than the Detroit Lions. But when it comes to points per game and points per drive, the Atlanta Falcons rank 31st in the NFL, allowing 27.4 points per game. And when it comes to the third down defense, they're not very good at that either, ranking 30th in the NFL, allowing third down conversions 48% of the time. Now, the poor third down defense is likely a big part as to why the Atlanta Falcons aren't a very good statistical defense when it comes to points per game, right? If you can't get the offense off the field, if they're extending drives over and over and over again on third down, then you're probably not getting off the field. Your defense is probably getting very tired early in the football game. And when your offense can't stay on the field, ranking 24th in yardage and ranking 26th in points per game and ranking 26th as a scoring offense, and your defense can't get off the field, that is not a recipe for success. That is a recipe for your defense to get tired very early in the football game and for teams to be able to run and impose their will on you in the second half of the football game, because their defense is fresh, their defense is healthy, because your offense has been on the field the whole game. Obviously, when your defense is fresh and your offense can't, and the other team's offense can't stay on the field, that is a really, really good thing for your defense, because the offense doesn't have any rhythm and your defense gets a lot of rest. And then when your offense goes on the field, that defense is gassed, they're tired, they don't want to play anymore, and you can kind of impose your will, run the ball, and run the ball some more to bleed out that clock and stay on the field as long as possible, in a very similar way that the Detroit Lions defeated the Arizona Cardinals a week ago. Now, good news for the Atlanta Falcons. They are not suffering with very many injuries this week. The only two big-time starters on the Atlanta Falcons roster and on the Atlanta Falcons injury report this week was inside linebacker Deion Jones, who did not practice on Wednesday due to an illness, but he was fully practicing on Thursday and Friday and is expected to play this week as a starting inside linebacker. And offensive lineman Chris Lindstrom did not practice on Wednesday either due to personal matters, and then his status throughout the rest of the week was kind of hidden, kind of taken away. It just had the little dash under it, didn't say practice, full practice, partial practice, or no practice. It just didn't have it recorded from the website that I was looking at and from the official injury report by the NFL. So his status is unknown. I don't know if he's still dealing with it. Whatever's going on, I hope obviously that everything is going okay in his life, and I hope that he can figure out his personal thing that he is dealing with right now. But it said that he missed practice due to personal matters, and that could cause him to miss the game, but I'm unsure on the status of his situation, so I won't make a lot of comments on that. Now, overall, the Falcons are not a powerhouse this year. Obviously, a couple years ago, they had one of the highest flying offenses in the NFL. They were the number one scoring offense in 2018 with a top 10 scoring defense, and I mean, they were the juggernaut of the NFC, but after, age caught up with them, after guys like Devontae Freeman left, after their offensive line got injured, after Julio Jones was traded away, after Calvin Ridley opted out of the rest of the season, even with a pretty stable Matt Ryan as quarterback, even with, a phenomenal rookie tight end in Kyle Pitts, and with a couple other really good players, Cordero Patterson's really good, Mike Davis, the running back, has made a couple plays for that team on offense, and even with standout performances on the season from guys like AJ Terrell in the secondary, they just simply haven't really been able to find that consistency on the season. Their offense ranks kind of lower half of the NFL, not the worst, but not even quite around average, kind of between, again, everything ranking between 24, 23, and 26 on the season offensively. And then on their defensive side of the ball, they are one of the lesser defenses. They're 26th in yards, 24th in takeaways, and 31st in points allowed, and 30th in third down conversions as a defense. So, you look at that, you look at the low 20 rankings in pretty much every major statistical category. You look at the fact that they're 6-8 on the season, 2 games behind 500, not a horrible football team, but obviously you can tell that there are some things missing on that roster. They're just a below average team. They're not great at anything, but I wouldn't say they're horrible at anything other than maybe scoring defense and third down conversions. But other than their scoring defense and their third down conversions, they are mid-20s in everything, making them just a slightly below average team. With the Detroit Lions having their quarterback mishap this week, and with Jared Goff ending up on the COVID reserve, this may be a tougher matchup than last week simply because of all the injuries that the Detroit Lions are facing. Now, the Detroit Lions are 2-11-1 on the season, but despite their poor record and poor play early in the season, the last 6 weeks have been incredibly impressive by the Lions. The Lions have, in their past 6 weeks, gone 2-3-1 with 2 victories, 3 losses, and a tie. That tie was decided, obviously they tied the game after overtime, but could have ended on a walk-off field goal if the Lions had hit that. That would have put them at 3-3 and 500 over the past 3 weeks, and 2 of their losses were decided by 3 points or less. So if you hit 3 field goals, if there's a 3 field goal difference in 3 of those 4 games, the Lions are 5-1 in their last 6 games with a ton of momentum going into this game, and although their record is very poor at 2-11-1, they are coming off a huge dominant victory versus the 10-win Arizona Cardinals, and despite the record, the Lions have been incredibly competitive this season against just about every single NFL franchise and every single NFL team, regardless of whether they are a top team or a bottom team in the NFL. The Lions have competed with just about everybody, with the exception of 3 games out of the 14. And overall, I mean, they've just played some really good football this season, despite the amount of losses that will show up on their record. Now, not only are the Lions very consistent this season, not only are they very competitive this season, but they're also very comparable to the Atlanta Falcons in pretty much every statistical category. The Lions on the season offensively ranked 25th in offensive yardage with 4,385, just 3 yards difference between them and the Atlanta Falcons offense throughout the entire season. The Lions ranked 15th as far as turnovers lost, only losing 19, being a 2 turnover difference between the Lions and the Falcons. They ranked 28th in points per game on offense, averaging 17.4 points per game, but they ranked 25th in points per drive, averaging 1.65 points per drive when on the field. Now, the Lions have had an incredibly underwhelming offense for a majority of the season, and a lot of it has to do with poor play calling. A lot of it's had to do with Jared Goff not finding his footing and not feeling very comfortable in the Detroit Lions system early in the season. And some of it has been the quarterback rotation. Jared Goff has missed a game. He missed the game against the Cleveland Browns with, I believe, a back injury, if I'm not mistaken. But he missed that game, and that kind of knocked his rhythm off a little bit. That had, Tim Boyle in there, who didn't play his best football and didn't play very well against a stout Cleveland Browns defense. And overall, the offense was very underwhelming until last week, where they exploded to a 338-yard performance with 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, and 30 points put on the board for just the second time in the 2021 season. And they did that versus a top 5, top 10 scoring defense in the Arizona Cardinals, with pass rushers like Marquise Golden and Chandler Jones, with secondary players with Byron Murphy Jr. and Budda Baker, as well as the athletic freak Isaiah Simmons, who was diving around making a ton of plays for the Arizona Cardinals from their linebacking core. They played an incredibly talented defense with a really good defensive coordinator last week, and they, had their best offensive performance and their most consistent offensive performance of the season. But not only was the Lions' offense incredible last week, their defense stood up and held Kyler Murray, AJ Green, James Conner, the NFL's touchdown leader, and just a really dynamic, explosive offense to just 12 points and 1 touchdown on the day. Now, although the Lions defense has not been statistically great all season, they played their hearts out last week, only allowing 12 points to a top 5 scoring offense in the Arizona Cardinals. They bottled up Kyler Murray all day. Rondale Moore didn't get loose. AJ Green had a couple of catches here and there late in the game, but at that point, the game was largely out of reach for the Arizona Cardinals, with a very low chance of them actually getting back in the game. And overall, the Lions, with great efforts from Charles Harris and Will Harris and Amani Oruwariye, with that incredible pick that almost went for 6, with incredible performances on the defense, and again, AJ Parker, another standout player from last week that came back from the injury reserve list. With those standout defenders, the Lions had their best defensive game of the year. Now, on the season, the Lions haven't been quite as impressive. They ranked 29th in the NFL in defensive yardage allowed, allowing 5,327 yards on the season. They ranked 25th in takeaways on the year with 15. 7 of them have been interceptions. The rest have been forced fumbles and fumble recovery, with our leading secondary member having 6 interceptions on the year in Amani Oruwariye. Got his 6th interception a week ago, but unfortunately was injured on the final drive versus the Arizona Cardinals, so he will not be performing. He will not be playing in this upcoming matchup, and he will not be traveling with the team to Atlanta this week, which is super unfortunate to see. But he is our turnover leader on the season, and he will not be playing. But without him, the Lions still have a fair amount of turnovers, especially in the last 6 weeks of play. Now, the Lions also ranked 26th in points per game allowed, allowing 26.1 points per game, again ranking 26th in the NFL. But over the past couple of weeks, with the exception of the Denver game, the Lions have put together some really good performances, allowing just 16 points to Pittsburgh, allowing just 13 points to Cleveland, allowing just 16 points to Chicago, and again, last week allowing just 12 points to Arizona. They've had some standout performances. It just so happens that where you have really good outliers, you also have some pretty bad outliers in the game versus Philadelphia and Cincinnati, and of course the Denver Broncos game where the Lions really didn't have all that much talent to compete with versus Denver. And then when you get to third down defense, the Lions are just 2 spots ahead of the Atlanta Falcons, not with a great third down defense, ranking 29th in the NFL, but better than the Falcons, allowing a third down conversion at a 44.1% right now. The Lions defense just lost Alex Anzalone for the season with a shoulder injury, and right after the victory versus Arizona, they found out that they would also this week be playing without their starting quarterback and their signal caller in Jared Goff, who just finally found his footing, passing for 218 yards last week and 3 touchdowns with 0 turnovers with an 80.5% completion percentage. Jared Goff found his footing, but unfortunately he slipped yet again and will miss this game against the Falcons more likely than not. There is still a possibility that he plays tomorrow, or there is still a possibility that he plays on Sunday in Atlanta, but as of right now, and from comments that have come out from Dan Campbell and other sources, it seems incredibly unlikely that Jared Goff will be starting for the Lions in week 16. The Lions are facing quite a bit of injuries this week as Julian Okwara and Amani Oruwariye did not practice on Wednesday. Julian Okwara has been battling an ankle injury over the past couple of weeks, and it has kept him out ever since the Chicago Bears game. Ever since the Chicago Bears or the Minnesota Viking game, he was limited in practice the rest of the week and is officially questionable for this game, so he very well could play, was limited at practice on Thursday and Friday, so it's possible that he plays, but I wouldn't say it's very likely considering he missed the last couple of games as well. And then Amani Oruwariye did come up with a thumb injury on the last drive versus the Arizona Cardinals, that last defensive drive. Amani did get hit in the hand or something, his thumb got pinched or bent weird somewhere, and he did have a thumb injury that is officially keeping him out this week. He did not practice at all during the week and is officially ruled out for this game in Atlanta, but the Lions do have another couple of players returning from injury that are questionable for this game. Jonah Jackson did not play a week ago. He was questionable to return for this week after being limited in practice all of the days. Khalif Raymond's questionable for the game, as is Josh Reynolds and DeAndre Swift, who missed the game and has missed a lot of games after leaving in the second quarter of the Chicago Bears versus Detroit Lions Thanksgiving matchup. He's been out ever since that he took that hit and ever since he injured his shoulder. He very well could return, and I would expect DeAndre Swift to return this week as the Detroit Lions lead running back paired with Josh Reynolds. And then Jalen Reeves-Maybin, after coming back from the injury reserve list last week, is officially injured again. You kind of saw it when he made that big play on Kyler Murray, where he was limping just a little bit after, and it seemed like he was in a little bit of pain, but not something to the point where he was going to miss significant time. I would expect Jalen Reeves-Maybin to also play this week for the Detroit Lions and probably likely be their starting linebacker in the absence of Alex Anzalone. The Lions are playing a lesser opponent this week in the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm not trying to say that to be offensive or rude or underestimate the Atlanta Falcons in any way. They can very realistically go out. Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts can have an amazing connection. The defense, AJ Terrell can lock up the number 1. The Atlanta Falcons run defense can be one of the top while having one of their better games in the NFL season, and the Lions very well could lose this football game without their starting quarterback in Jared Goff. But the Falcons are a lesser opponent than the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have 10 wins on the season. The Falcons have 6. The Cardinals are vying for the playoffs. They're 1 win away from clinching a playoff spot. The Atlanta Falcons are not mathematically eliminated, but they are likely eliminated from the NFC's playoff race at this point. So they're very different opponents. Last week we played a dynamic offense and a really good defense as far as scoring, and this week we play a below average offense and a below average defense. Now the Lions have suffered quite a few injuries since that game against Arizona, losing their starter and their captain of the defense and their starter and captain of the offense in Jared Goff and Alex Anzalone. So the Lions are going to look to be replacing that. Tim Boyle's been taking first team reps for a majority of the week, but David Blau has also been put in there at times competing for that number 1 spot. We don't know who's going to start at quarterback yet. We don't know who's going to start at linebacker linebacker yet. We don't know how healthy this team is going to look. If all of our questionables play, the roster looks a lot better than if we're missing Julian Okwara, Khalif Raymond, and Jonah Jackson, and Josh Reynolds, and DeAndre Swift, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. That roster, with all those players playing, is better than one without them. And we don't know how many of those players are going to play. We don't know how heavily those injuries are affecting those players. All of those players have been limited in practice all week, but many of them are expected to suit up and play for the Detroit Lions this week. So with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. That is the preview. That is the overview for this upcoming matchup between your two 11-1 Detroit Lions and the 6-8 Atlanta Falcons. The Lions look to get their second consecutive win and their third win on the season to keep the momentum going, and the Atlanta Falcons look to keep their playoff hopes alive and inch one game closer back to 500 and one game closer to the playoffs. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Until next time, and as always, of course, go Lions!